West Virginia and Oklahoma State are hunting. It is portal season, wide slap open. But who's going to get the best players? We talk about it now.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Is up, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul, along here side of Cody Stovall from Locked On Oklahoma State, doing a Locked On crossover here, and we're thankful you guys are here with us as we dive into yet another episode of our daily shows where you can find us here every single day talking football, basketball, wrestling, whatever it is that you want, we got it. Brought to you by FanDuel today. Look, guys, right now customers can bet just $5 that'll make you come holla, and you're going to get $250 in bonus bets. But you got to win. So if your bet wins, you'll get pretty good money out here, right? In my opinion. So head to FanDuel.com to get started today. And let's roll, baby. Obviously, on the West Virginia side of things, we're excited. How has your offseason been in the portal so far, Cody?
For basketball, it's
Yes.
been relatively non-existent. I mean, we've had a lot of guys leave. You have heard some names coming back. Ben Ahmed's coming back, big-time center. The 41% three-point shooter, Ryan Crotty's back. Kanye Clary, who took a massive step at the end of the season. While he averaged 16.7 points a game a couple of years ago at Penn State. That version of him came to life at the end of the season. He's coming back. So you do have some important pieces, but we're here to talk about the recruiting battles in the transfer portal, and we might as well kick this thing off with Isaiah Manning, buddy. Both of us are going after Isaiah Manning, coming from Sam Houston. We're probably not going to be, that's not going to be the only guy we're fighting against each other for when it comes to some of these Sam Houston guys, because they were a darn good team. Kind of stinks to see a lot of their guys leaving, unless you get to be one of the beneficiaries, and I think we could be. And, ironically enough, we recruited Isaiah Manning fairly heavily a couple of years ago. He ended up going to TCU, but the common consensus in Stillwater was, well, he was 6'6", 185 pounds. Right, so he was going to have to put on 25, 35 pounds in a couple years before he was going to be able to bang bodies in the Big 12. Well, he got there. He went from 6'6", 185 to 6'8", 235 at Sam Houston State. Hopefully, we get to be the on the receiving end of his talent, right? You and I have talked a little bit off air about the capabilities of Isaiah Manning. Averaged 19.9 points a game, almost 11 rebounds a game. And, the minutes per game, his minutes per almost 20 a game. He averaged almost 11 a game, rebounded almost 4 a game, had almost a couple assists a game. And he proved that he can bang down low. Why? Because Sam Houston played Oklahoma State, and they played pretty daggone close.
He's not the only one. I've actually got a little bit of an exclusive drop here, as I've been able to confirm, talking with Jacob Walker from Sam Houston State today, that he will be visiting West Virginia. So that is a big coup for West Virginia. The guard played really well against Oklahoma State, dropping 17 on the Cowboys. Here is a little bit of what he looks like if you want to see a play from him in person. Looks like he's a shifty guard that can really get downhill. He's also got a nice jump shot to his game. I really like this guy a lot. Would love to have Manning as well, but this is a 6'1" guard, 11.5 a game for him as well. And he's a true freshman last year. So he averaged 17.3 over his final 11, 4 assists per game, which is pretty good, 36% from three. So, and an elite free throw shooter as well. So I consider this to be a very sneaky guy that not a lot of people are talking about yet. And surprisingly so, being that he was only a freshman last year. So, like you said, it sucks for Sam Houston that they would lose a couple of these guys.
Yep.
At the end of the day, though, what I would say is it's just the way of it, right? Which we're going to talk about in the second segment, by the way. I meant to set that up earlier. There was some numbers that come out right after the portal was open. I don't know if you saw that, Cody, how quickly the names were, there was only, which we'll get into it, how many names are in the portal so fast and talk about the state of things. But, there are other guys, man, as far as West Virginia is concerned. Have you got other people on your radar as well?
Yeah, let's stick with some Big 12 on Big 12 crime. I don't necessarily love it, but I do love beating down Utah anytime possible. Going after the number 4 scorer in the Big 12, Terrence Brown Jr., I think would be a great move for Oklahoma State.
He's a good player.
He averaged 19.9 points a game. I got him and Isaiah's points mixed up a little bit, but he was number 4 in the Big 12 in scoring. He dropped multiple 30 burgers. He was a problem for Oklahoma State when we played Utah. Like, you can't lose to Utah. It's embarrassing to lose to Utah. And what did Cowboy basketball go off and do? Just that. You lost to Utah primarily because of the play of somebody like Terrence Brown. When you can get that 46% from the floor.
He's tough to guard.
Right. And he can put up the points in a hurry. When you're losing Anthony Roy, you're going to need to replicate some of that scoring capability. For Oklahoma State, I think Terrence Brown would be a perfect addition. But again, just like Isaiah Manning, not only are we having to battle the other Big 12 schools, but there's a lot of Big 10, ACC schools that are mixed in to a lot of these recruiting battles. So it's going to be extremely interesting. Do you have another Big 12 dude that you guys feel like you can allure to Morgantown? I don't know, like a Javon Small from Stillwater all the way.
I would love, I would love nothing more than to be another Big 12 guy. But no, not that I'm aware of anyways right now. There may be some in the Big 12 that we're looking at. A lot of the guys we're looking at are some of the mid-major guys, along with some of the bigger guys. Like, I'll give you another one. Isaac Seliscar, the forward from Yale, 6'6", averaged 13 points a game last year, 6.3 rebounds a game, 3 assists per game, which is really good. He shot at 57% from the field and 40% from three-point range, which is really good. He's a really efficient scorer, man. That's rebounds well. He passes it well and spaces the floor. He defends multiple spots. He had 24 double-digit scoring games with 6 double-doubles on the year. He had a 10-assist game, a 14-rebound game, a 27-point game. He had a 23-12-5 game. Like, this is in my opinion, humbly, you can't get a better addition than Isaac Seliscar. Okay. He doesn't average a ton of points per game, but he has games where he can be that for you if you need. But he is going to be good at whatever you need him to do in your offense, right? You need a great small forward that can pass it. He can do that. You need a guy that can step back and shoot it. He can do that. You need a guy that you can throw onto the block and maybe get a smaller defender. He can do that. The physicality in the Big 12, I'm not sure about. He's also a great defender. You always worry about, Cody, when a guy's coming up, especially from a place like Yale, the physicality of the Big 12. But I think, in basketball, the translation is much better than it is in football for a situation like this. So, it's not as difficult, let's say. I mean, the guys transfer up all the time pretty easily. Would I want an entire starting 5 of guys that have never played power football? No. But, I mean, West Virginia basically had that last year and almost made the tournament and won the crown. So,
gotcha.
It can be done, I think, if you get the right fits.
Well, you're talking about small school guys, right? I've got another Big 12 fella to talk about, but since you're talking about the G5 level, I got to give a shout out to Keviar Kennedy from Merrimack University. All of these guys that I'm talking to you about have had some level of conversation with Oklahoma State. Some of them have been on Zoom calls. Some of them have already set up official visits. He's averaged 18.4 points a game this previous season, almost 5 assists a game, almost 5 rebounds a game, almost 2 assists a game. He was the MAC Player of the Year. He was also the MAC Rookie of the Year, unanimous selection. If you can get somebody like that with Jalen Curry coming out the door and you lose Victorious Miller, that would be a phenomenal addition to Oklahoma State. But I did mention the Big 12 play, and you mentioned defense, which was our massive struggle last year in Oklahoma State country, was defense.
Massive's not a big enough word.
I don't think we can get this dude, but I also didn't think we'd have a top 10 recruiting class with a McDonald's All-American either. So if the money is right, and I'm still hearing we have some to play with, how about Flory Badunga from KU, the 6'11", 230-pound center? Now
that's really a wish lister there.
He averaged almost 14 points a game, 9 rebounds a game, almost 3 blocks a game. He's a massive presence. He is 7'2".
The money's right.
He stands 9'1", right, without any effort. If you can get somebody like that into Stillwater, Oklahoma, that not only changes
a lot.
It changes the expectations, but I think that also changes the perception for Steve Lutz. Steve Lutz is going to have to get a home run. I think you could consider offensively, Anthony Roy was a home run, but defensively, we were absolutely terrible. We didn't necessarily have a tried and true rim protector, especially after Parcelfala went down with an injury. So I think if Oklahoma State can do this. It sends a massive message to not only the Big 12, but the entire country, because Badunga also put in for the NBA draft, right? So and he's only a sophomore. He could easily be drafted in the first couple of rounds, and this is a ridiculous conversation. Or we could hear something crazy, and Oklahoma State takes the swing of a century, and we try to go steal this dude from KU.
That would be an amazing pickup for Steve Lutz and company, and I'd be rooting for it. I don't think West Virginia's in on him. Here's what gives me confidence you could be, and we'll go to break. Somebody wrote a $7 million check for Drew Messamaker at Oklahoma State this year.
Yep.
So I'm in the boat of there's somebody there, and more than one guy. Now I know that from what your people told me whenever I was hosting your show, which I was grateful to do that for a little while. You guys have got a couple somebodies involved. So, there's money there to be had. It's just football is king, obviously, in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And, is somebody going to be willing to pony up what would be probably $5 million for a guy like that? That's what that's what the offer is right now for the best player at his position, or one of the top 2 or 3.
Yep.
You're going to give anywhere between 4 and 6.
Well,
so,
and here's the deal. We wouldn't be coordinating meetings or Zoom meetings, at least, with these individuals if we didn't have at least a certain understanding that we could hit those financial incentives, right? And I don't think that the communication would be reciprocal if Oklahoma State didn't already give somebody like that some assurances that we can do X, Y, or Z. Maybe it's not $5 million, maybe it's 4.5. I don't know. But yes, you are right. We do have some people that are invested in Oklahoma State, and they want to see the Cowboys back in a lot of areas. It's a wrestling, football, baseball kind of state, not a ton of basketball, but we did get the number 1 player in Oklahoma 2 years in a row as well, coming in to go alongside that McDonald's All-American. So I think everybody's pretty excited where Steve Lutz is sitting, but I just did a show on this earlier. He needs to make a move. Right now, it's getting to the point where you've got 5, 6, 7 guys leaving, and you're not bringing a single soul in. This is where it starts to get troublesome.
We're in a similar boat.
And I get it. It's timing, right? Everybody's going through the same timing. But at the same point in time, if you lose 6 or 7 dudes, you want to plug the gap pretty quick. You want to stop the bleeding pretty quickly. JC Hoyt was able to do that, right? She lost basically her entire roster, and then she got the number 1 scorer in the country to come. So has she, addressed the other 5 players that have left? No, but she addressed something with a massive scoring addition, and that's gotten everybody to calm down. Steve Lutz needs to do the same thing. Make a splash, do something, bring somebody in, because it's starting to get a little stressful.
Let's go to break really quick. We'll come back. I got a couple other names I need to notify our West Virginia people of as far as guys that West Virginia is in on. There's levels to it, right? I mean, some guys are visiting, some guys it's one way. West Virginia wants them. They don't want West Virginia, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know any of these are the case, but these to a lesser extent, I know as far as whether they're visiting or not, but we will bring them up next because West Virginia's been not rumored. They're in contact with, which we'll talk about as we hear from our friends from Mazda.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. UCLA made history by winning its first NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship, dominating South Carolina 79-51. The Bruins controlled the game from start to finish with elite defense and balanced scoring, finishing the season 37-1. Star center Lauren Betts was named Most Outstanding Player, leading a team effort that capped a 31-game winning streak. Under head coach Corey Close, UCLA secured a landmark title that has been decades in the making. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes. I'm coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
And of course, in segment 2, I always like to crack a do. Cody, thank you so much for joining me here on the crossover as we dive back into it. And since it is segment 2, I will crack a do in honor of both of us and you guys as we dive back into this. Obviously, for West Virginia, I think a couple other names to mention really quick before I ask the question here is, there's obviously Jalen Cox coming from Colgate, a big time scorer there, 17.9 a game, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 6'3", 36% from 3. Really good, scores at all 3 levels. He's a big time potential pickup for West Virginia, immediate contributor type player. Probably one of the bigger name players was freshman last year from Providence by the name of Jameer Jones. He is obviously another one that West Virginia is looking heavily at and has made contact with. 6'6", 218, 12 points per game last year, and a physical downhill power wing that I think would absolutely shine in a West Virginia situation. Najai Hines is another big potential pickup. 6'10", 265, 6 rebounds a game, 6 points per game, 5 rebounds per game would be another big one. And then, obviously there's a couple others. There's the St. Bonaventure, Frank Mitchell, that a lot of people are looking at that would probably need a waiver, but he averaged 17 and 10 last year. West Virginia is 100%ed to him on 3, but I've already said earlier on my show that from what I understand, somebody had sent to me that was an error as far as the way the on3 site works. I guess, Cody, is let's say one of the let's say whoever works at on3 site for Oklahoma State, let's say so-and-so entered the portal and they put it in. I guess it defaults it, whichever site puts it in, it automatically defaults it to them for some reason. So it's like a system thing. Okay. So Vernon from the on3 West Virginia site put it in and apparently defaulted to West Virginia for some reason. So I don't think there's any real thing going there, although West Virginia actually is interested in him. So just a weird coincidence, but that's what I was told. I haven't been able to confirm it because I don't talk to Vernon, but yeah. So anyways.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, we've got BJ Davis from San Diego State. He's visiting us. He's visiting Auburn. We're all going to have some players, right? Devin Vanterpool, 6'4", 200-pounder from FAU that averaged 16 points a game, right? We're going to have some more intriguing conversations about, how we get this basketball team put back together. But as it pertains to this insane portal turnover.
Did you see the number, what I was talking about?
Once you drop the knowledge on us, and we'll have some fun.
So I think it was, I don't have the exact number on here, so I'm going to just roughly guesstimate, but it was like, so the portal opened, it was only open for a couple hours. There are 5,000 total players, and over 50% of those had entered within hours of the portal opening.
Are you talking about for hoops or football? Because it was pretty comparable.
Yeah, I mean, this was just yesterday, so it was for hoops.
Okay.
Yeah,
it was like 7,000 something in football.
Which makes sense.
Crazy.
So, just the fact that, like West Virginia is probably, a lot of West Virginia fans were upset, obviously, because, we had a kid that kind of came on strong at the end of the year by the name of DJ Thomas, who was from Allen, Texas, and unfortunately entered the portal, even though he wasn't recruited by any other Power 4, right? West Virginia was the only one because Ross Hodge wanted him at North Texas. And so he continued to recruit him as he came to West Virginia. He spent his freshman year at West Virginia after not being recruited by many, and so entered the portal. And a lot of fans were upset about that.
Yeah, I would be upset. Like, I didn't know anything about this, but that's pretty shitty.
Until you figure out that here's what I was told anyway. This is kind of what I want to get into it with you about too. It's not only just that, the numbers part of that is just crazy, but the agent's part of this is what makes it even worse because I'm being told his agent priced him way out of West Virginia's contention, like 350, 400K type number coming in for DJ Thomas, a freshman that averaged 7 points a game. But he had a 20-point game in the Crown. So you're right. The next to the last game of the year, he basically won us one of the Crown games and went off. And he had a couple games like that last year as a true freshman. he had multiple double digit. I mean, he really did. A lot of potential there, but still, it's frustrating, right? Because the way it read, what I
Yeah.
was told is his mom and his agent basically kind of convinced him. And then I got a text from somebody that was like, I feel bad for these kids because they're being led astray in a lot of these cases.
Dude, agents are the absolute worst. Like being in the recruiting landscape and doing some traveling, this is something that I've run into a lot. And so have you, right?
Yep.
Some of these agents, they don't have relationships at your current university. That's all this is more often than not. Secondarily, they have their own agendas. I can only speak to it from an Oklahoma State perspective, but this previous season, we had a handful of dudes that were family members that were rocking with an agent that had a terrible relationship with Raj Murdy. So they ended up transferring away from Oklahoma State. Not a big surprise, simply because of the relationship. It had nothing to do with the money per se. It had everything to do with the negotiations. And Raj Murdy's like, he's got a list of people that he will not work with because they don't run things the right way. And Oklahoma State currently has a former player and somebody that was very close to the organization in Stillwater that is now recruiting against Oklahoma State as an agent and telling players not to come to Oklahoma State because he's butthurt about how things transpired and how he got fired and how things went down with Gundy. So that shouldn't have anything to do with, what's best for the student athlete. But players or people like that are purposely sending kids away from certain schools because of internal animosity or problems that they have. And as you can tell by my frustration level, I'm so sick and tired of seeing these agents absolutely torpedo their kids' careers before they even get there. I've had agents tell me that X, Y, or Z, you need to send me $450 to have my players on your show. Like, no, dude, he's 17 years old. He needs exposure. What are we talking about? But that's the point, man. Some of these quote unquote agents have set the precedence that, you can go chase the bag above all else. And they pretend to be the voice for that player and telling them what system's going to work and what staff's going to be the best, but they don't do that. A good number of these agents don't give 13 craps about the kid. They care about the profit, the margins, the percentages, where they're going to go, who they have relationships with. There needs to be, we talk about the portal and NIL and putting guardrails on it, and whether it be Trump or the NCAA, it doesn't matter. Something needs to happen to curtail this. The same thing needs to happen with agents. They need to be more stringent, more verified, because a lot of these agents know nothing about the industry. They just happen to be like former players.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Like, we've got former players that didn't go through any kind of economics training that are trying to give financial advice to 16, 17-year-olds based on relationships. It's madness, man. I can't stand it. Some of these kids are getting screwed. Like, we had players that really wanted to stay, that were willing to take less money to stay, but their agents ruined it. Wendell Gregory was going to be a Texas Tech Red Raider, and his agent had to just go and ruin all that too, just like his agent ruined things in Stillwater.
I have had some good interactions with agents too, but they're
too,
few and far between.
Like
my buddy Dan, the represented Devin Voss, came on the show, and treated Devin really well, like the way he viewed it, But here's the thing: this is a guy that literally, his whole thing was he worked with IRAs. You know what I mean? Like, that was what he did before being an agent and a financial planner. So, who better to be an agent? So, guys like that are more qualified as far as from an economic standpoint are the kind of guys you would want to be involved. Obviously, there has to be a personality part to it. I get that. Like, you have to be able to wheel and deal.
Yeah.
But it's just by nature, it's a more seedy business, right? Which it just is. You kind of have to be down in the weeds a little bit to get ahead for your client. But you have to be doing it for the right reason. And really, that stuff shouldn't be happening to these kids until they're 25 and in the NFL, right? Can't they just have at least 2 or 3 years of a little more purity?
Even then, man, even when they get to the NFL, those are licensed, legal agents that have degrees, that studied finance, that studied law. You know what I mean? Like, they're checks and balances system is light years different than college. What we're currently having is a bunch of former players, former coaches, former GAs, former analysts that are sliding into this agent role because they have a ton of football knowledge. They have a Rolodex of connections, but they have no financial background. They have no financial training. And yet they're the ones dictating what these offers are in conjunction with parents. There's a lot of parents out there that are very, very uneducated or purposefully ignorant when it comes to this stuff. And they need to be taught better. So there needs to be some kind of standard for these agents. And right now there's not. And it's bad for the kids. This whole transfer portal NILRS killed high school recruiting. And these agents are not making any of it any better.
Correct. Agreed. Which we've already done away with collectives, right? So the next step would be agents, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at least the collectives are moved in house, and the universities are kind of running them now. So,
right.
Do you have the FanDuel read up, or do I need to get it up really quick?
Dude, hit me.
All right.
Hit me, Goose.
Right after the break, guys, we'll give you our final thoughts here on the expectations for each team. We'll be right back.
FanDuel is the bee's knees for all of your betting needs, especially with the NBA playoffs coming around, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing the entire series. Right now, FanDuel is giving an opportunity to new customers with a great way to get in on the action. Here's what you're going to dig about it. You bet just $5 and you get 250 bones back in bonus bets if your first bet is a winner. The app makes it super easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, matchups, all in one spot. And during the playoffs, the extra insight really matters when you're looking at the stars, the players, the moments, the matchups. It makes the entire playoff experience so much more engaging, and you have a ton of investment level. So get that investment level by heading over to FanDuel.com to get started today. Again, that is FanDuel.com. Go there today, because with FanDuel, you can play your own game.
All right, we are back here in segment 3. Thank you guys so much for being with us tonight as we dive into a little portal talk and some other things. And, I think for West Virginia, expectations-wise, it's going to be interesting in year 2, because I think we had an idea of what we thought may happen, and then that was DJ Thomas would be back. We thought that Amir Jenkins, which we still think he'll come back, and all that. But, unfortunately, it's looking like maybe a couple guys won't be coming along with them, as Jaden Forsyth has entered the portal and Evans Barningen has entered the portal. And it's just really frustrating. Both of those were top 100 guys that we redshirted, never saw the floor except for 4 games. So, it brings up the question of, should Ross Hodge have redshirted him? I don't know. I think you're trying to do what's best for them and yourselves, and it's just, they had to tighten the rotation up anyway. They weren't going to play as much. Might as well slap a red shirt on it, but it is what it is. But, for West Virginia, I think, obviously coming back, you're still going to have a couple guys that can carry forward the culture. And that's before we found out this week, Cody, that not only is Trump placing an executive order that'll come forth around April or whatever, or not April. When is it? When did they say the executive order would be?
August 1st.
August 1st.
Yeah.
And then also beyond that, Ross Dellinger reported the NCAA is also exploring a
5 for 5. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So if it grandfathers in players that have only played 4 years, West Virginia would really benefit from that, because they would get a couple players back from the Crown winning team. And that's Brennan Laurent, who's an elite defender and probably one of the best 30 players in the league. I think he's really close and would really benefit from another year, as well as Jasper Floyd, who has started for point guard for Ross Hodge for 4 years. Or no, not 4 years. I'm sorry, for a couple years. And you would be able to have some kind of nucleus back, and it would be really exciting. Unfortunately, Honor Huff wouldn't be able to come back. That was obviously what he did in the Crown Championship game, going for 38 points.
Right.
Was incredible. And it just showcases what he could do. And coming in with Miles Sadler, it would be an incredible thing to see him play with Miles Sadler, who not only just won the EYBL Scholastic MVP award and the championship, but also the national championship MVP Obviously he's just as on fire as anybody you can mention in the country right now.
I did not know that they did a scholastics-based award. That's actually pretty cool to reward academics that way, but I didn't know that YBL did that. So that's pretty good.
So, we feel good about Miles coming in, along with his teammate Ali Ojum. So there's a lot to like about West Virginia next year. Obviously, it's still going to be heavily dependent on who you surround Miles Sadler with in the portal, because I do think we're going to be an AJ DeBonsa type led squad next year that is built around a freshman. I believe that because he's our point guard, and Miles will be our starting point guard from day one. You don't bring a top 30 guy in if he's not going to be your starter, right? So,
right.
He's going to be our starter, and we'll be excited to see what happens. I think in year 2, the expectation for me would be definitely tournament, potentially more. It just depends on. I'll be able to tell you more in 2 weeks.
I think expectations for Oklahoma State should be very comparable to what we just saw at a UCF. Steve Lutz came out of his own mouth and said that when I got hired, they said, we're hiring you to do one thing, and that is to get us to the NCAA tournament every year. That's it. That's all you got to do, right? And he hasn't done that yet. Now he's only been there 2 years, well, technically like a year and a half going into this pseudo 2 or 3 year mark. So with the investment, right, with the donor, if we went from a $700,000 NIL budget, $700,000 3 years ago, to now talking 7, 8, 9 million, you have to be able to turn that into a return on investment. I think Steve Lutz knows that. We also are going to be primarily pivoting everything towards a freshman. When you have a McDonald's All-American with that kind of skill, size, speed, Latrell Allman, if you watch the All-American game, it was fun to see him get in there, throw his body around, and be dunking on people. He's going to be the focal point, I would imagine. Then you have Jalen Montanati, number 1 player in the state of Oklahoma 2 years in a row. You also have Parker Robinson coming in, who's a lot like Ryan Crotty, who was at 41.6% shooting from the three-point range. And we got Kanye Clary back. We got Ryan Crotty back. Ben Ahmed, Makai Ragland. We do have a decent nucleus, as you just mentioned, returning. We have a top 10 recruiting class coming in. But we still haven't – I don't think we've done enough to secure that top 8 positioning in the Big 12. UCF, they made the tournament. They finished top 8. They were 13-5 at home and 5-3 or something like that on the road. Or they weren't very good on the road, 3-5, or whatever the case may be. Anywho, that's what Oklahoma State needs to look like. You need to be top 8 in the conference, right? You need to at least be knocking on that door of being in the NCAA tournament. And retention is the next step for Steve Lutz. He's been great about bringing talent in, but you did lose Victorious Miller. You're losing Isaiah Coleman. You're losing Daniel Guetta. I just found out Andre Vukovic is in the portal, which is crazy because I was under the impression he was going to stay, unless the double knee thing is a little bit more serious than we thought. That could be an underlying issue here. And lastly, you mentioned the NCAA Donald Trump stuff. That's where schools like, I think, Oklahoma State and West Virginia, K-State, Iowa State, our types of universities, I think we need this. Whether it be the Trump deal or the NCAA deal, either one of them is better than what we have now. There is a differentiation, but for the NCAA deal, your eligibility starts at 19. It ends before you turn 25. So if you turn 25, you cannot play. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then you have the Trump thing where you get, that one-time transfer rule. And if you transfer beyond that, you have to sit out a year, kind of like the way it used to be. And there's supposed to be bumpers on the NIL. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're having these conversations about losing all of these players. If this rule, either one of these rules were in effect, I think it changes the game. Because I think right now when people sign with any college, Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, Miami, doesn't matter. Right now they're like, I will sign, I will go play, I will get my NIL, and if I don't like anything, I can just leave. And that's what I'll do my sophomore season. And that ease in which players can make that decision, I think, is the biggest problem. If you now put it to them that, hey, you can transfer once, but after that, you got to start sitting out time, I think it'll cause kids to be a little bit more precise in the schools that they go to, because I do feel like right now, there are 18-year-olds, because of their agents, that are going with the biggest NIL package instead of the best scheme, the best fit, the best staff, the best play. Like, that this 5-on-5 rule or the Trump rule, either one of those, I think would fix a lot of this portal chaos and madness. And that way it would allow us both to go recruit players that are actually going to stay for 4 or 5 years.
Right. By the way, we got some little breaking news here. A few of you guys, who you are, probably knew about this earlier today, but Kingston Whitty will be moving on from West Virginia, the 4-star. Don't want to get into the details, but it is now confirmed, which, I've known about this for a while now, but that's a sucky one. I hate to see that happen, but since it's breaking now, we might as well go ahead and get it out of the way. He'll be probably obviously reopening his recruitment, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, a lot of people within West Virginia wanted to see him play at West Virginia because he's such an explosive scorer.
Yeah.
But I think in this day and age where the prices have gone up on so many things, you have to really be able to balance out how many young guys you bring in. And I think this was a balancing of the checkbook, as badly as it sucks to say, for West Virginia. And unfortunately, this kid gets cut loose as a result. Now, unfortunate, right? But it is what
I
it
hate
is.
the portal. I hate it. I cannot wait for one of these rules to get into effect.
Miles Sadler will not be next, by the way. I know Jacob in the chat saying that Miles Sadler is 100% committed to West Virginia. I'll
tell you another reason why it's going to be important is because both of us had to go get the 2 stars and the 3 stars and then build them up to become NFL players, right?
Kevin Pittsnoggles of the world.
You can't do that anymore.
No.
Like if you get a project that is going to take 2 years, by the time he gets to where he's actually ready, he's probably going to leave you. So
unless they're in state, and even then you don't even know anymore.
We need the 5-on-5 deal for the NCAA. I'll take it. The Trump deal where you get 1 free transfer.
They are the ones that have to hold this up because its legislation is so much less likely. The NCAA has to be like, okay, fine, we're going to vacate your wins. We're going to do something. You're not going to play in the postseason. Whatever it is you have to do that's not something the players can't challenge, right?
Yeah.
Because the players are going to win in court 99% of the time without it being unreasonable. And one thing the players can't challenge is the place they're playing at is being wins vacated or not playing in the postseason. To me, that's a pretty simple fix. You tamper, you miss the postseason. If you don't honor your contract, whatever with the kid, you miss the postseason. Like, it has to work like that. And hopefully it can work both ways, But
you had a comment down here by Tosh Miller that nailed it. There needs to be a salary cap. And as you know, I've been a big proponent, right? Working with Kappa, College Athletics Players Association, because there needs to be guardrails on this. These players need protections, not only from agents, but also from universities. Like, I hate to say it, but universities manipulate scholarships still to this day all the time. Not this cycle, but the previous cycle. Oklahoma State had a player that got a scholarship. Everybody celebrated. 22 hours later, they're like, oh, we did the numbers wrong. You actually cannot. And thankfully, he has now made his way to Colorado, so he'll get to stick it to us on the football field. But things like that happen everywhere, every day. And these players need protections from that. And they need protections from these insane agents. And but yeah, at least the NCAA is pretending to attempt to do something. Ironically, it's right after Trump, signs this executive order.
Of course it was. Yeah.
Then the NCAA is like, hold on.
We've been working on it for a couple weeks.
What's up?
They said we've been working on it for a couple weeks.
Oh, that's what they said?
Yeah.
No, what it was is we just got outshined by the president. We have to show the world that we still kind of somewhat exist. And you know what? I'm okay with it, man.
I don't care.
I don't necessarily love the 5-for-5 thing. Like, there needs to be some nuance. Like, if somebody tears their ACL 3 years in a row and they turn 25 and they've only played 1 year, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's obviously going to be some discrepancies between both of them, and I don't care if they converge them, but it does feel like that maybe the litigation for the Trump executive order would be easier than the NCAA, right? I know the NCAA does seem kind of toothless, feckless, worthless, whatever you want to
Paper
call
tiger.
it. There you go. But there does seem to be some conversations that this executive order by Trump, it's going to have hundreds of lawsuits ASAP just to test the waters, right? But the NCAA, they win some lawsuits, right? They lose a decent amount, but they win a decent amount too. And I think that if they were to enact officially this 5 years rule where you can play from 19 to 25 and that's it, it would at least curtail some of the craziness for now.
Guys, we got to roll. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a fun time.
We're going to do another hour. Don't let Paul lie to you.
We're going to do another hour. We just had to separate for 5 minutes. But in all seriousness, guys, thank you for being here with us. Here at Locked On Oklahoma State, Locked On West Virginia crossover. Big time stuff today from Cody, dropping bombs, like they said in the chat. Appreciate the takes, man. And thank you for carrying me on this episode. I had a panic attack in the middle of the episode, and I was trying to get through it. So I'm glad
you probably had a panic attack because my loud ass wouldn't shut up about segment 2.
No, it wasn't that. I just
if you're an epileptic, all you have to do is watch me talk, and I'll get you rocking.
This is known to happen to me every now and again. Usually it's me by myself, but thank God I've never had one that's been so bad where I've had to just end it. Because those do exist. Those do exist. There are some that I just wouldn't be able to do anything, but I think coping skills, I've been able to cope with it over the years so much better, but I don't want to go off on all that tangent. Anyways, thank you for being here. I'm actually glad we did this because I'd have been in trouble by myself. So guys, we will be back tomorrow. I don't know if Cody has any more planned for tonight, but I'll be back tomorrow here dropping 2 again.
Cody does have another show about wrestling coming out tonight as well.
Is it about Ric Flair and the stuff he's been doing lately?
No, it's about Oklahoma State grabbing a South Dakota State transfer. And
Ric Flair's been getting drunky again.
We've got some weights that are about to be manipulated. Yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Ric Flair has been sending people drunk cameos. I
have not been a recipient of the drunk cameo.
I would actually pay more maybe for a drunk cameo from Ric Flair.
I have to admit, I've never considered it, but if I were to get one, if I were to pay, you have to pay for that, right? A cameo,
yeah.
Don't you pay somebody?
Everybody has their rates, yeah.
If I were to have to pay for a cameo of a drunk dude, I ain't gonna lie to you, it'd be Mike Gundy. It would 100%. If I can get a drunk cameo from Mike Gundy in the middle of his farm, bro, that'll be priceless. That'll be like driving drunk down dirt roads 1,000 times, kind of priceless.
Somebody clip that, and we'll clip you guys on the next episode of Locked On West Virginia, Locked On Oklahoma State, where we're talking about your team every single day. Make sure you check out Locked On Portal next, as he does an excellent job over there. One of the best in the business and one of my favorite dudes to talk to. Your team every day. He says, what do you say?
Bro, almost every time pistols firing, God bless, go Pokes. But almost every time I reach out to Brian about some inside recruiting information about a kid,
he knows it.
He does. I was talking to him about a kid from Houston, and I was like,
he's done that to me
before.
About
this guy, and he was like, yeah, he runs a 10-800 meter, and I was like,
he's plugged all the way in. Brother.
He is, bro. He is.
Yeah, he told me about a portal recruit that was 2 weeks before we got him. 2 weeks before we got him. I mean, it was like, holy crap. Anyways, pistols
go
firing.
check out Brian. Brian's the best.
Yeah. And I always say, do not ever forget to cue those country roads.
Take me home.